Rolling. Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to this Holding Difficult Conversations course. This is week 2, and it's titled Managing Thoughts About Others. And I hope that you enjoyed week 1, and I hope you enjoyed reading the article about week 2. So this is my presentation that adds, I guess, in some respects, reflects the article that we've already, you may well have already read. Okay, so I want to start week 2 with a challenging quote, I think, from Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialist philosopher. Sartre wrote, amongst a lot of his work, he wrote a play, and the play featured 3 characters who um, each of whom thought that they were in hell, and that the 2 of the characters were their executioner. And what Sartre showed that in the in the relationship between these 3 characters, based on competitiveness, um, on conflict, and really how each reflected the other's concerns and fears. That really they weren't in hell at all. They just constructed hell out of their relationships and their failure to make good relationships. And his famous quote is often kind of misquoted, really, but is that hell is other people. Which I think is interesting in the way in which we might consider our relationships and other people's relationships. We all know that there's people in our lives who seem to fall out with everybody, and other people who seem to get on with everybody. And they say they're really relaxed. It's water off a duck's back, or whatever they say. Do those people meet different people as they pass through their lives? No, they don't. They meet the same people. But for some people, relationships, day-to-day doings with people can be really quite painful and difficult. And therefore, I think the notion of them being in hell is quite a useful one. And we might come across some of these people in our own dealings, in our work, in our families, working with service users, members of the public. That might be true for us sometimes as well, that the relationships causes all sorts of difficulties. And that's very painful. It's painful for me as well to watch it. So there we are. That's what Sartre given us for this presentation today. So I'm going to use a term called I'm calling experiential shorthand, a bit jargony, but really what it means is that we construct the world unconsciously. We're not conscious of all our experiences at any time. I think what they say is that we have 127,000 experiences at any time. It might be the whir of my laptop fan, how the temperature of the end of my nose feels, what my bottom feels like sitting in this chair, the quality of the light coming in through the window. 127,000 seems like a reasonable number of experiences, and obviously we had those all at once. We go mad. So our brain has got this filtering process, and it's really useful except when it lets us down. And I think we might have experiences, let's say that there are nice experiences, that we think, ooh, this is nice. But we haven't necessarily listed all the experiences that led us to nice. It's just filtered. We find ourselves just in the open doorway of a cafe on a cold and miserable day, and we get the whiff of the coffee. We look inside and at the lights and the smiling staff and the warm buns. We think, ooh, that's nice. We're not necessarily filtering. We're not necessarily consciously aware of all those experiences. We just, it's done for us, really. And that might also be true of people that we don't get on with very, very well. We might start, oh yeah, them, you see the snarling lip. And sometimes these ideas that we form from these people They're very, very firm, and they begin to feel like the truth. We think, oh, kind of don't really want to do anything with them. I don't want to work with them. Or, oh my God, look, it's 2:30, and look what I got coming in to see me. Oh dear me. And we made a shorthand experience of this person. We've had a couple of meetings with them, and it hasn't gone well, and we started to say they're difficult people. And we have an emotional response to that as well, really, sometimes very strong emotional response. Sometimes it might come up in terms of fear. It's really useful to have this experiential shorthand, because it helps us if we, particularly in dangerous situations. Let's say we look up and we see a car bearing down on us in the street, and we just jump out of the way. We don't think, oh, that's that car's doing at 45 miles an hour. There's a 200-yard stopping distance. The surface is wet and slippery today. The driver doesn't seem to be paying attention. We don't do that. We just get out of the way. But with the complex relationships with people, we might find that might take to have a broader view of people's behaviour before we form firm opinions about them. And it starts really with us just being consciously aware that we do. So I think that's probably the first part of thinking today, is let's be consciously aware of how we respond to other people. The next thing to think about is confirmatory bias, which is a sort of another long way of saying that we make assessments, we form beliefs about people, and then what we tend to do is look for information to confirm our beliefs. Yeah, that seems like we make a diagnosis, and then we look for information that our diagnosis is correct. It's kind of seems to be the way that human beings often work, and that means that contrary evidence may be hard to find. That this person is not like that in other ways, or there's more to them than just a kind of awkwardness in meetings, or a difficult manner, or whatever. And that once we've hardened our ideas about people, we look for that information. It's quite hard. It's quite challenging to change. And that's another part of looking at our experiences of people and being conscious, because we might want to shine a light of our consciousness in other areas of their life where they're less difficult, where they're successful, where they do collaborate with us, where they're maybe good to work with. What's particularly awkward was when bias becomes attached to certain groups in society. I mean, this happens, and this is really tough stuff. And if you're a member of that group, it's very, very hard. I mean, I think I made a reference to hag a hoodie, didn't I, in the article? That young people with hoods were being met with fear, despite the fact that it was a fashion. And that might have an impact on how we dealt with people. I had an experience recently where I bought a houseboat and had somebody visit me from the council about council tax assessment. And I welcomed this person onto my boat, and this person had obviously formed an idea about houseboat dwellers, because despite the fact how charming and how friendly and welcoming and I was, and cooperative I was, the response I received was clearly that she thought I was going to be difficult, and that was, there was very little I could do about it. She thought I was going to be difficult. So there we are. So she brought some bias attached to a group that I was a member of, and you may well be a member of a group who sometimes experience prejudice in society, and this is an unfortunate and an unhappy situation. And those of us who are responsible for other people's well-being, would be as managers or people delivering services, we've got a responsibility to address that, become aware of our own bias, and take action again to ameliorate it. So what do we do in this situation then? What do we do with this sort of stuff? One of the things I'm going to suggest that we do is that we consider some convenient beliefs. Now, I see these convenient beliefs as like a kind of like invisible tool that I will whip out if I start to feel negative about other people, or I start to form critical ideas about other people. I kind of I give myself this message. Maybe it's more like a plug-in in a computer. Or let's get a convenient belief out here. If I start to feel kind of cross with people, or I start to hear myself say, "Oh dear me, look at that! She's never going to be able to do that," or whatever. So I plug in a convenient belief. These aren't truths, by the way, not necessarily. They're just convenient beliefs. They're there to make me more resourceful. They exist to make me more able in having these difficult conversations. So there we are. There's one. People are doing the best they can with the resources they have at their disposal. They're doing the best they can. So that's what I do. I sort of think, okay, take a minute. This is a difficult conversation, but this person is doing the best they can with the resources they have at their disposal. And I wonder what I can do to help them be more resourceful. I might ask them that question. How can I help? What would help you this minute? But my focus is to help them be more resourceful rather than to be critical with them because they are challenged on what they're doing. Another one here is the success of communication is defined by the receiver. What it really means is that if I've a responsibility for communicating something and it's unsuccessful, the person doesn't understand, then it's kind of down to me. Now, is this the truth? I don't know. What I'm seeking to do here is to help myself to feel resourceful and flexible in having that communication. So that's what I would do. I think about how maybe I need to say this differently. Maybe I need to find out how best they communicate. I think the best piece of communication I think I've ever seen is a worker who was working with a 14-year-old boy. This was a key worker in early help in the local authority. Was working with a 14-year-old boy, and what she'd done is that she'd arranged this for this young man to come to a meeting with his mobile phone, and he sat facing away from the meeting, didn't want to look at the people in the meeting, and he texted his contributions, which he then relayed to the meeting. And I think this was a fantastic example of her being really flexible and taking responsibility for communication in order to make it successful, defined by the receiver. In this case was the young man, who's also a generator as well. And finally, everyone is trying to cooperate the best they can. People really want the best, really. And if I have a notion that says that they're trying to cooperate, if only I can find out how best to cooperate with them, then they'll cooperate with me. And again, these are things to help me to be flexible as possible. So these are convenient beliefs. These are ideas that I'll plug in to help me be more resourceful, address these very human experiences of bias, and help me be in the best place to help people. Finally, I think this is probably the ultimate in convenient belief, or such technique really is, and it's loving kindness, or what's called the Metta Bhavana, which is a Buddhist mantra. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be without suffering. And I found this to be a very useful tool when dealing with people with whom I start to feel conflict with. It helps me to work with the best of them, and to help me to connect with them. So how I would use this is that at moments where I start to feel this sort of criticism, I just sort of say to myself, and I think about the other person, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be without suffering. Sometimes I apply it to myself. It's just a very useful technique. It's not for everyone, but I share that with you. Now finally, the reflective task for this week. What I want you to do really is to stop by just noticing your response to someone with whom you're at odds. Notice what thoughts go in your mind, sensations goes on in your body. Just gotta notice that. Could be the first step to being mindful and ensuring that the service you provide that person isn't overly influenced by your own response. Consider that these sensations are part of information for you rather than truths about them. They're information for you rather than something that defines the other person. And if you find yourself in that situation, apply a convenient belief. Try people doing the best they can with the resources that are available to them. Try that. Maybe try the Metta Bhavana. Maybe happy, maybe well, maybe without suffering. Let's see what that does. That's the experience. I think partly what I want for people to do in this course is just to try on something different. And I guess I'm asking you to do that this week. That's a reflective task. Thanks, everybody. Any questions or comments, drop me a line. I'll be online in the chat room on Monday night. Give me a ring if you'd like to. And have a good week. Thanks.